Okay, welcome everyone. As we are dedicated in the learning of Sanhedrin, co-sponsored by the Zepkowitz family in honor of their parents, co-sponsored by Mr. and Mrs. Eddie Chazan, for Shoshana Bas Panina and Simon Bas Rachel, with Ser Shachel Yisrael, co-sponsored by Binyamin Rivlin, Lila Nishmas Yitzchak Ben Abraham Yehuda Levi, co-sponsored by Shelley Zeitlin for the schus and welfare of his children, Eli, Orit, and Ora, and for my Gesund, Moshe Meir Ben Esther Fradel, and sponsored by Berich Goldwasser in Hakar Satayv to the Shir, and for my Gesund, Moshe Meir Ben Esther Fradel, and by Shalom Fogli and Nishmas Yaakov Zev Ben Yehuda Aryeh, Rivka Bas Yaakov Yosef, Tzivya Miriam Bas Gad, and Yosef Ben Sion Ben Yaakov Zev, that the neshama should have an aliyah. We welcome here in the shul so far this evening, Berish Gesseman. It's a delight to have you joining us for so many days in a row. Really is, in person. I mean, Oli's with us, but Gedalia Engel and Reb Kramer, who unfortunately was not able to make the siyum, but he was here in spirit, that's for sure. And we have Avram Shenkman here joining us. Avram, it's great to have you at all, as always. And Ruvain Shannet, who I know is in the back getting me a drink. We welcome here. The Olam is first starting to arrive now. I think there's a lot of Hanukkah parties tonight. We have Saba, and we have Eddie Chazan, Irving Fishbaum, Yaakov Warman, thank you very much. Yaakov Warman and Nachman Chaplin, Yoshua Yamansky, Rabbi Kranz, Shelley Zeitlin, Shimon Klein, Itchy, great to have you, and Yisrael Fisher, Moshe Lehman, Itzi Muller, Avram Rezepkowitz, Abe Arbach, David Helfgott on Kololoshin, and we are holding, by the way, last night's daf was not an easy daf, and then Baruch Hashem, we went through it pretty nicely, but it was, last night's daf was a challenging daf. Mo Kushner is with us, and Dr. Block is with us, and a good Chodesh and a Freilich and Chanukah to everybody who is joining us. We are holding on Daf Yud Gimel Amid Beis, and we are holding by Amalei Rav Acha, which is 8 lines from the bottom of Daf Yud Gimel Amid Beis. As we welcome in Marshall Castle, so the Gemara says, Amalei Rav Acha Brei Rav Ravashi, excuse me, Amalei Rav Acha Brei Rav Ravashi. Rav Acha, the son of Rava, asked Rav Ashi, "B'yedam mamish samchinan lei? Do we have to do the smicha of the new Rav with our hands? Do we put our hands on the head?" Amalei, so he says that's not necessary. Samchinan bishma, we give smicha by name. Karilei Rebbe, we call him a Rebbe. V'yavale reshus alameidin dinei knas, and we give permission to judge dinei knas. So the Gemara said, we said smicha is with 3. So on this, the Gemara asks. On this, the Gemara asks, do we need 3? Is it necessary to have 3? Is that necessary? Hold on a second, please. Let's get this working. Is it necessary to have 3? The Chad Lo Samach, is one not enough? It is the famous Ma'isa of the heroism of Rabbi Yehuda ben Bava. You know, the wicked government realized how necessary it is for the health and well-being of Klal Yisrael to have its rabbis. V'amar Rabbi Yehuda Amar Rav, Bram, in truth, Zachar Oisaya Ish L'Tayv, that man should be mentioned for the good, Rabbi Yehuda ben Bava Shemai. His name is Rabbi Yehuda ben Bava. Shel Malehu, because if it wouldn't be for him, Nishtakhu Dine Knesses Mi Yisrael. The law of Knesses would be forgotten by Klal Yisrael. So the Gemara says, the law? Nishtakhu? Nigrasinu. We have the Gemara. Everybody would be able to learn it. Ela Batlu Dine Knesses Mi Yisrael. The institution of Knesses would have been lost because there would have ceased to be smuchim in Klal Yisrael. Whenever it says Malchus Harisha, it refers to the Romans. Pamachas Gazer Malchus Harisha, the wicked government decreed Gezer al Yisrael Shekola Soymech Yehoreg. Any rabbi who gives smicha should be executed. V'kol nismach Yehoreg, and whoever receives the smicha should be executed. V'ir shesoymchem ba, and not only that, look how widespread was the ruthlessness of the Romans. V'ir shesoymchem ba techarev, the city that the smicha was given in should be destroyed. Utchumin shesoymchem ba yaku, and even the outskirts, the 2,000 amos, should be uprooted. So what did he do? It reminds me of my father, Olav Shalom, Rabban Tzvi ben Rameya, Zichron Levracha. He was in Auschwitz, and he told me that over there it was clear the Nazis' hatred of the rabbiner, of the rabbi. He saw examples of how they had extreme hatred to anyone that they sensed was a rabbi. As a matter of fact, it left a little bit of a mark on him that later on, when I became of age, he wanted to be a doctor. It left a bad taste on him, the way the Nazis treated the rabbiner. And it was only Rav Moshe that changed the course and told him that he should let me remain in the yeshiva. But before that, he wanted my son the doctor. It was a harsh impression because the Nazis also, they had a directive straight from Hitler to stamp out the rabbis. So what did Rabbi Yehuda ben Bava do? Ma asa Rabbi Yehuda ben Bava halach v'yashiv loy bein shnei harim gedolim. He made it clear that he was doing it not near any city. He sat himself between two huge mountains, obein shtei ayoros gedolos, between two big cities, obein shnei tchumei Shabbos, clearly outside of the tchumim of these cities, bein Usha l'Shefarim, between Usha and Shefarim, v'samach sham, and he gave smicha there to Chamisha Zekenim, to 5 elders. Ve'elu hein Rab Meir, Rab Yehuda, Rab Shimon, Rab Yosef, and Rab Elazar ben Shamua. Rab Avya Mosif, Rab Avya added Afrab Nechemia. But the spies of the Romans that really kept close tabs on Rabbi Yehuda ben Bava and on the smicha candidates, Kavan Shekiru Oiveim, when the enemies found them, Amalahem Banai Rutsu. Rabbi Yehuda ben Bava said, "My children, run." Amalai Rebbe Matei Alecha, he was elderly, what's going to be about you? Amalahem, so he said, I'm going to stall them. Hareini muta lefneim ke'evan she'ein lahoifkin. I will stand by them like a stone that can't be overturned. I will be a blockade. Amru, they said, lo yizazu misham. He didn't move from there. We have a story of heroism of Jewish heroism on Hanukkah. And this heroism, Hanukkah is a story of heroism. It's a story of the Maccabees. Right? That's, if there's any kind of heroism, it's the heroism of the Maccabees. Not all of the Maccabees survived, right? And here we have a story of heroism. The story of Chana v'Shiva Banea is a story of heroism. I always felt that Chana v'Shiva Banea was the Anne Frank of Hanukkah. What I mean by that? The Anne Frank is only one of over 1 million children. But when you say 1 million children under 12, the mind cannot relate to that. It can't relate. 1 million children, it can't relate. So you take one child and you relate to that story and the sadness, and then you multiply it by 1 million. So Chana v'Shiva Banea is not the only story of the atrocities of Antiochus. But you take one family of 7 children, and then you multiply that in your mind. Right? And we have the heroics of each of these children. So here we have the heroics of Rabbi Yehuda ben Bava.
He was worthy of Asara.
Yes, he was. So, but this is considered an Asara Harugei Malchus. The Asara Harugei Malchus were all not at the same time.
Was he the only one who gave smicha?
Well, he was now. So now the Gemara asks. So, but you said we need 3. So how could he give it alone? So the Gemara says, Rabbi Yehuda ben Bava Achrina Havabadei. He had 2 other great rabbis with him, but that which they're not mentioned, Mishum Kvayded Rabbi Yehuda ben Bava. They were so subordinate to Rabbi Yehuda ben Bava, even though they actually deserved mention. They were also risking their lives, but in honor of Rabbi Yehuda ben Bava, we only mention Rabbi Yehuda ben Bava. Says the Gemara, but I thought Rabbi Akiva gave smicha to Rabbi Meir. Rabbi Yehuda ben Bava samchei. V'amar Rabbi Babachanam Rabbi Yochanan Kol Ha'omer Rabbi Meir lo samchu Rabbi Akiva. Whoever says that Rabbi Meir didn't receive smicha from Rabbi Akiva ain't elataya. Is only an error. So it was Rabbi Meir that gave smicha. Why do you say Rabbi Yehuda ben Bava gave it to him? So the Gemara says, when Rabbi Akiva gave smicha to Rabbi Meir, he was very young. And people didn't accept him. Samchei Rabbi Akiva v'lo kiblu. But Samchei Rabbi Yehuda ben Bava, when Rabbi Yehuda ben Bava gave smicha v'kiblu. Amar Rabbi Shua ben Levi, ain't smicha b'chutz la'aretz. There's no smicha in chutz la'aretz. You cannot give smicha in the diaspora. My ain't smicha. Ilema d'loi dainei dinei knosses klal b'chutz la'aretz. If it means that in chutz la'aretz you cannot adjudicate penalties like kefil and dalad v'hei, v'tanan Sanhedrin noihagas bein ba'aretz bein b'chutz la'aretz. Sanhedrin could practice both in Eretz Yisrael and in the diaspora. So it can't be that there's no rabbonim in chutz la'aretz. Ela deloy samchinon b'chutz la'aretz. We don't give out smicha in chutz la'aretz. Now, what about long-range smicha? Pshita, if samchin b'chutz la'aretz, v'nismachin be'eretz, if those that were capable of giving smicha were in chutz la'aretz, and those that are receiving the smicha are in Eretz Yisrael, ha'amrinon delay. We said that you cannot give smicha in chutz la'aretz, so you surely can't give long-range smicha in chutz la'aretz. But what about the other way around? Elasaymchim be'eretz. If the ones that are giving smicha are in Eretz, v'nismachim b'chutz la'aretz, and the ones that need the smicha are in the diaspora, Could you give smicha when the person is not in your presence? So says the Gemara, Tashma, the Rabbi Yochanan have mitstarer alei the Rav Shimon bar Abba. Rabbi Yochanan was distressed. He was distressed on Rav Shimon bar Abba, that he never was with him, that he could give him smicha. So you see that you have to give smicha when the person is in your presence. Rab Shimon ben Zirud, the Chad de Ime, Rab Shimon ben Zirud, and one that was with him, Umanu Rab Yonasan ben Achmoi. Others say that the other way around, Rab Yonasan ben Achmoi, the Chad de Ime, Umanu Rab Shimon ben Zirud. Chad Gabayu, one that was together with Rabbi Yochanan Samchino. The Chad de Loya Gabayu, and one that was not with him, Loy Samchino. Rab Chanina v'Rab Oishia have kamishtakid Rab Yochanan l'mismachino. Rab Chanina and Rab Oishia, Rab Yochanan really made effort to give them smicha. Lo havim mistayim ilsa. He never had the success. Either he never could get two other rabbis with him, or he could never get them in his presence. Have him come at star tuva. This really distressed him because he wanted to give them smicha. Amru lei, so they told him, loy nitstar mar. The master shouldn't be distressed. We're not supposed to get smicha. We're not supposed to get smicha. We descend from the base Eli that was cursed. And Edamar of Shmuel bar Nachman, Amar Rabbi Yonasan, minayin she'ein nismachim bebeis Eli. How do we know that we don't grant smicha to beis Eli? Shenema lo yeh zokein bebeischa kol hayam. There won't be a zaken. Now this cannot mean literally that there won't be old people, because that already is taught. That's already a separate curse. My zaken, ilay ma zaken mamish, v'ksiv kol marbis beischa, all of the yield of your house, all of the descendants, yamusu anashim, will die young men. So what does it mean, zaken? Ela smicha. It means zekana chachma. It means there won't be somebody that will receive smicha. Now, Rabbi Zeira, this is very interesting. And there's big yisaidus in this. There's big yisaidus in this. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, she'akol niyeh b'dvaro. The next Gemara, I believe, was quoted heavily by the Stipler Gaon. The Gemara says, Rabbi Zeira have a mitamer lemismeche. Rabbi Zeira initially hid from receiving smicha. The Amar Rabbi Lazar l'olam have a kovel v'kayim. A person should be, Rashi translates kovel as ofel. A person should be in the dark and he will endure. That means that a person should be under the radar. If a person is under the radar, then they'll endure. If a person is too much in the limelight, then there are rays of ayin hara. I can't help but tell two stories about this. Two stories. My veteran Talmidim will have heard these stories, but it's also appropriate because this Monday is my first Rebbitzin's yahrzeit. So what happened was when I came out with my first sefer was Passionate Judaism. So Aryeh Meze, the editor from, they were very excited about the sefer. And in those days, it went into its second printing. It sold 6,000 copies, 6,000 hard copies, besides the soft cover copies. So it was a success. But anyway, he was very excited about it, so he bought the cover of the Country Yossi magazine. In those days, the cover of the Country Yossi magazine was $4,000. And he bought the cover of the Country Yossi magazine, and he put on the cover a picture of me and the Sefer. And I come home proudly, and I show an advanced picture of the cover to my wife, and she blenches. She literally turns white. And I totally didn't expect this. And she says to me, "Do you want your picture lying on the floor in barber shops, by hairdressers, in pizza shops? Are you not afraid of an ayin hara?" So first I tried to calm her down, a lot of people's pictures. She was frantic. So I picked up the phone and I called Aryeh Meze and I said, "Aryeh, we got a problem." So he said, "Rabbi Weiss, I already paid an artist to do the cover." And so I said, "Look, Aryeh Meze is a very ehrlich yid, and his Rav, for all his decisions, because he was a big meicher esrogim, I love him, and he was a publisher, and he never published a book. He didn't publish a book unless he got approval from Rav David Feinstein. And Rav David Feinstein nixed certain books. It was very interesting. Certain books we would be surprised Rav David Feinstein did not allow him to print, because they talked about certain theological issues where Rav David said the questions that they raise are better than their answers. And they're ma'ir sveikus. And he wouldn't allow him to print that. Really very fascinating. Anyway, so I said, "Look, your Pesach is Rav David. My Pesach is Rav David. Ask Rav David." And I went back to my wife and I said, "Is it okay if we ask Rav David?" So she said, "Well, that's what Yidden do. They ask a shayla." He said, "But just tell Rav David that his Rebbetzin is afraid of an ayin hara." So Aryeh confidently brought the cover to Rav David. He said, "We're preparing this to print. Rabbi Weiss we're publishing his first sefer. But the Rebbetzin is worried about an ayin hara." Rav David told them bluntly, "Well, then you can't use it. You can't use it. That's this Gemara. Lo'ilam avi kovel v'kayim. Stay in the dark." So Baruch Hashem, I already thought of a plan B, and I gave him a very nice picture of Rav Moshe, and he took out my picture, and he put in a picture of Rav Moshe, and the caption was "From Rebbe to Talmud," and it turned out to be a very beautiful cover. That's story number one. Story number two. Ruvain, the first story you remember?
Vaguely.
Okay.
I remember.
Huh? Oh, you heard it from me? Yeah.
Was Rav Moshe still alive?
Huh?
Was Rav Moshe
No.
alive?
No. It was.
Remember the Rob giving over the story?
Yeah. Okay.
Rob's picture wasn't on the cover?
No.
Just
I
the
thought it was my picture you wanted on there.
Yeah. Well, then we said the sefer wouldn't sell. We debated it. We debated it.
Barbershop floor.
Marshall and Barry together.
Now, Marshall wasn't even born yet. The second story is when I had my shir in the Aguda. So Mim Libby was worried then also about an ayin hara, because everybody was talking about the shir. A shir with 250 people is not something that you come about every day. Shelley, you remember that shir?
Absolutely. How did I understand the story with the Country Yossi magazine?
Yeah. So she was worried about the shir. So Reb Moshe was alive, but he wasn't well. So I made an appointment with the Heilige Reb Shlomo Mebabov. And we went on 48th Street, in the corner house, and we went to Reb Shlomo Mebabov. I'll never forget how nice he was to us. And he sat us down, he talked to Mim Libby, and he says that she doesn't have to worry about an ayin hara, because the pasuk says, Shomer mitzvah lo yada davar ra, and mitzvahs Hashem bara me'iras einayim, and that the Torah will protect from an ayin hara. So there is that balance. There is that balance. Different people have different Yetzaharas. It's always been a Yetzahara of mine to speak by the Siyum HaShas. It's a Yetzahara of mine to speak by the Siyum HaShas. The chance to impact on 100,000 people is a very big temptation to me. And I always temper it with this Gemara, with such fanfare and to be so much in the radar. The Gemara says, and the Stipler mentions this, that, being under the radar, traveling under the radar is a very safe way. They bring another, they associate, the Bali Musar associate another Gemara to this Gemara. It's not brought down in this Gemara, but there's a Gemara that a bias ofel cannot become plagued with tsaras. That's a din. Rambam paskins that way. That if there's a house that doesn't have windows, it can never get, that means even if it breaks out with red and green blotches, and it has tsaras, the kohen can't, why? Because it says, the kohen has to be able to see it by natural light. And since there's no natural light, it's not susceptible to tsaras. So they also want to say that anything that doesn't, get too much attention is safe. Anyway, that's why Barry doesn't have his own yeshiva. He's afraid about it.
Take off the red sweater. Don't worry, you're not going to go ayin hara.
Now,
Thanks, Saba.
You learn the Torah, you don't need the red sweater.
However, Rabbi Zera changed his mind and looked for smicha. A person doesn't rise to greatness. Once a person receives a position of smicha, Hashem forgives him of his sins. He made an effort to receive smicha. And indeed, he did get smicha. Ki samchu l'Rab Zera, when they gave him smicha, sharu lehachi, they sang as follows. Reb Zera's had such natural knowledge that he didn't need any, so to speak, artificial makeup. He didn't need an artificial streimel that has hair sticking out 6 feet. He didn't need a gorgeous, multicolored kaftan. They sang like kachal. He doesn't need eye makeup. V'lei srak. He doesn't need blush. V'lei pirkas. He doesn't need hair dye. And without it, v'yalas chen. He has favor. Ki samchu l'Rebbe Ami l'Rebbe Asi. When they gave smicha to Reb Ami and Reb Asi, sharu hachi. They sang as follows: Kol mindain v'kol mindain smichu. All such as these, the great Reb Ami and Reb Asi, we should give smicha. Loi sismechu lana loi misar mitin. Don't give smicha to rags that are not fully developed. V'loi misar misin, and not people that don't have seichel hayosher. They look at things the wrong way, out of order. V'imrei lei loi michamisin, not from the plunderers. v'loimet turmisen, which are lupines. Rashi says he doesn't know what that's. Rashi says in his humble way, lo yisparish. This is Rashi at his best. If I write a sefer, I don't know something, I just skip it. Rashi doesn't want to skip it, because then you'll worry. But if Rashi doesn't know, you don't have to worry. Rashi doesn't know, okay. Rashi doesn't know, next. But others learn that the lupine is bitter. So not bitter people. There are people that are very wise, but they're very bitter. Rabbi Avo, ki ava osim mesifta lebei keser. Rabbi Avo, when he would travel from the Mesifta, he was the head of the Mesifta, when he would travel from the yeshiva to the Tsar to ask for a request, Nafku matronisa lebei keser, the matrons of the Tsar came out in honor, umeshayrin le Rabba Da'ameh, chief of his nation, Medabarna Dumase, leader of his people, Butsina Denura, shining lamp, perfect for Hanukkah, Baruch Masiach L'Shalom, may your coming be for peace. Okay, just getting underway on a beautiful seventh night of Hanukkah and Rosh Chodesh Teves. Arifas egla b'shloisha. The breaking of the heifer's neck is accompanied by 3 members of the Sanhedrin. Tan Rabbanan v'yatzu zekeinecha v'sheiftecha. Your elders and your judges. Zekeinecha shnayim, zekeinecha 2, sheiftecha shnayim. Sheiftecha is another 2. They ain't best in shakal. You can't have a equal best in. Ma'isifan alei and oid echad. Harikan chamisha. For egla arufa you need 5 judges. Divrei Rabbi Yehuda, that's the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Shimon is zekeinecha shnayim. Zekeinecha is 2. They ain't best in shakal. Ma'isifan alei and oid echad. Harikan shloisha. You only need 3. What does he do with the word v'sheiftecha? Reb Shimon, I sheiftecha my ovidle. The most distinguished, they have to be from the Sanhedrin Hagadol. Rabbi Yehuda, meziknei zikeinecha nafka. He learns it out from ziknei zikeinecha. Reb Shimon, ima ziknei havamina ziknei ashok. If it said ziknei, we would think even an old guy. But if it just said zekeinecha, v'ksiv zekeinecha, I would think it's enough to be the best of 23, a small circuit Supreme Court. Havamina Sanhedrin Ketana. Kasi Rachmana v'sheiftecha, that's miyuchadim sheb'sheiftecha. Why doesn't Rabbi Yehuda need sheiftecha? Rabbi Yehuda Gama Zekene Samchu Ziknei Aida Es Yedeim. He learns out Ziknei from the Parhelim Davel Shel Tzibur. Malahalan Miyuchadim Shebe Aida, the distinguished of the Aida. Afkan Miyuchadim Shebe Ziknecha. Says the Gemara, well, if you're learning out from Egla Rufa, Iyalef Leilef Kulei Mehasim. Learn everything out from over there. Learn everything out from there, because Rabbi Yehuda holds that by the Parhelim Davar Shel Tzibur you also need 5. Zekeinecha v'sheiftecha lamali. Why do you need zekeinecha and sheiftecha at all? So scratch that. He doesn't have a gzeira shava from Parhelim Davar Shel Tzibur. Rather, Rabbi Yehuda needs sheiftecha to tell me a member of Sanhedrin, but he darshins the extra 2 from the vav. From Vishaiftecha. Elavav Vishaiftecha Leminyana tells you another 2 judges. Reb Shimon Vav Loidarish. And Reb Shimon doesn't darish in the Vav. Says the Gemara, but you should need more than 3 or 5. Elamiata V'yotzru Shnayim and Umodidu Shnayim. They go out and they measure. So according to the Rabbi Yehuda said 5, you should need 9. Haritisha. Reb Shimon who says 3, you should need 7. You should need 7. Says the Gemara, no, the Yatsu Umadidu teach us other laws. Ha'omi bailei l'sanya v'yotzu hein v'lo yishluchan. Sanhedrin cannot send agents. Umadidu, you have to measure it even though it's obviously clear which city it's near. Shafilu nimtza ba'alul, even if it's glaringly obvious which city it's closest to, you still have to, ba'alul ir, still tzarech la'asais b'medina. Baruch atari, no yelaheinu melech ha'olam, she'koicha yugvurasai malei ha'olam. Now, Masnisan Deloike Haitana, our Mishnah that says that only 3 or 5 of the Sanhedrin, and that's it, has to be there, is not like Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov. Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov is a big man. Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov, Mishnasei Kav v'Noki. His teachings are short and pure. The Tanya Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov Omer v'yotzu zekeinecha v'sheiftecha, zekeinecha zu Sanhedrin. And we'll see the whole Sanhedrin. V'sheiftecha ze melech v'kohen gadol. Sheiftecha means also by an unsolved homicide there has to come out the king and the kohen gadol. Melech, how does melech alluded to in the word sheiftecha? Melech t'chsiv melech b'mishpat yamid aretz. The king with justice will uphold the land. And kohen gadol t'chsiv avos el hakahanim alavim ve'el hashofet. So we see the kohen gadol is called the shofet. Says the Gemara, Ibaylu Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov b'chada polik. He argues by saying you also need the kohen and the melech. Oy b'tarte polik. Or does he argue also that it's not enough 3 or 5, but you need the whole Sanhedrin? B'melech v'kohen gadol polik, aval b'Sanhedrin, ikar Rabbi Yehuda, either he holds it's enough 5 like Rabbi Yehuda, ikar Rabbi Shimon, or 3. Or Dilma b'Sanhedrin, nami polik, he argues about the Sanhedrin too. The Amar Kule Sanhedrin bainan, you need the whole Sanhedrin. Rav Yosef Tashma, Motzon Abeis Fag, we know that there is a terrible crime of Zokein Mamre. When an elder of the court rebels against the Sanhedrin, he's put to death. But that's only, as we will see, if he rebels when they're sitting in their home station in the Lishkas Hagazis in the Beis Hamikdash complex. Motzan Abeis Fagi. If they found him in the annexed part of Yerushalayim, if he found Sanhedrin in the annexed part of Yerushalayim in Beis Fagi, v'himra aleim, and he rebelled against them there, yochel tehei amra osei amra, I might think that the rebellion is a rebellion. Talmud loyma v'kamto v'alisa lamakam. Only when they get up and go to the place, malamit shamokam goyring, that only if the Sanhedrin is convened in the Lishkas Hagazis. Now, how would the Sanhedrin ever be out in Beis Fagi? The Nofik Kama. How many people were in Beis Fagi? Ilema Miksasam. If it was only a portion, well, Dilma Hanach Deika Gavoy Kaime Kavase. How do you know he's a Zakin Mamre? How do you know he's rebelling against the court? Maybe the members left in the court hold like him. Elapshita de Nafikulu. That they were all in Beis Fagi. Now, Lamai. Why would they be all outside of their home base? Ilay Malidvarishus. They went for a wedding. They can't leave. Mimatzi nafke. Sanhedrin has to be in place. Vaksiv, it says in the pasuk that the pasuk says, Shorarech, your belly is aganasar, is like the crescent of the moon. Al yechzer amezek. There should never be lacking from the mixture, from the blend. Now we darshan homiletically this pasuk, the crescent, that means the moon-like semicircle of the Sanhedrin, which we said sat like a semicircle, which is in the belly of the land, because the Beis Hamikdash is the center of the land, should never lack the amount of wine that's in a blend, which was 1 part wine to 2 parts water. So there always has to be 1/3 left, 23 members left. So when would all of the Sanhedrin leave? El pshita l'dvar mitzvah. So what kind of mitzvah? Heichi dami lav lemedidas egla. It must be to measure the unsolved homicide, the measure for the heifer. Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov, the Amar Kuli Sanhedrin bani. You need the whole Sanhedrin. So the Gemara says, no, there could be another reason why the whole Sanhedrin would go out, like we learned in a Mishnah, in the beginning of the first parak. Where they came to add to the city of Yerushalayim, which makes sense to be in Beis Fagi, because that's an annexed part of Yerushalayim, or to add to the temple courtyards. We don't add to the city or to the temple courtyards. However, Tanya Kavasi de Rav Yosef, the Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov indeed holds you need the whole Sanhedrin. Motzah na Beis Fagi, if the Zokein Mamre found them in Beis Fagi, v'himra aleim. Now, why would the whole Sanhedrin be there? Kigain shiyotzu lemedidas egla. They went out to measure the heifer, or to add to the dimensions of Yerushalayim, or the temple courtyard. I might think that it's considered a rebellion and he's put to death. To get up and go to the place. The place meaning over here is the Beis Hamikdash, the Lishkas HaGazis causes it, but if it's not in the Lishkas HaGazis, he's not put to death. Neter Ravai Yomaisu Sheni She'ein Dom of Yeduin B'Shloisha. We said that if it's Neter Ravai, that's the 4th year of a tree. The first 3 years it's Arla and it's forbidden. The 4th year has Kedusha of Neter Ravai, it has to be redeemed, and you have to bring up the money to use in Yerushalayim. And Meiser Sheni, that's in the 1st, 2nd, 4th, and 5th years of the Shemitah cycle, the 2nd Meiser has to be redeemed and brought to Yerushalayim. She'ein dom of Yeduin, if you don't know its value, then it has to be assessed b'shloisha, with a panel of 3. Now, who are the members of these panels? First of all, Ezo Ma'aser Sheni She'ein Dom of Yeduin. What kind of Ma'aser Sheni would not have an obvious price? Peirishir Kivu, fruit that started to deteriorate. V'yayin She'ekrim, wine that started to turn sour. Or Mo'eshech Lidu, and money that was rusty. Tan Rabbanan, Ma'aser Sheni She'ein Dom of Yeduin. Ma'aser Sheni that its money is not known. You could redeem it with the assessment of 3 merchants, but not with 3 people that are just Tom, Dick, and Harry's without any experience. Even if a guy is one of them, it's okay. And even if the owner is a pro, he's a merchant, he could be one of the 3. What if they're 3 partners that put their money all in the same purse? They're 3 partners. Can these 3 partners be a panel of 3? Tashma ish ushtei nashav, a man and his 2 wives, they could be on the panel. Then a man and his 2 wives put their money in the same purse. Says, well, who says? Dilma Kigain Rapapo Bas Abasura. Maybe it's like Rapapa and his wife Bas Abasura. Bas Abasura was independently wealthy, And she said, I don't want it to be called Masha Kana Isha Kana Baila. The husband gets it because he gives her support. She says, she says, I won't be take Mazainas and I won't give her my money. Right? So then it's not in the same purse. But maybe if it's three partners that put their money in the same purse, they cannot be on a panel of three. Now, Ha'ekdeisha b'shloisha. Hekdesh is with a panel of three. Says Gemara Masnisin Deloik Kaitana. Once again, our Mishnah is not like Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov. The Tanya Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov Aimer Afilu Tzinura Shel Hekdesh. Even to redeem a small fork of Hekdesh, a small fork used for spinning. Tzricha Asara b'nei Adam l'fdaisa. Our Mishnah says movables only need 3. Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov says even movables need 10. Amalei Abaya, Rapapala Abaya, I see Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov's view very logically. Bishleim Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov Dama Kishmul. The Amma Shmuel Asara Kehanim Ksuvin B'Parsha. In the Parsha it says Kayin 10 times. Now it doesn't say Kayin 10 times by Karka. It doesn't say Kayin 10 times by movables. It says it's spread out. It says Kahanim by Arachin, it says Kahanim by movables, and it says Kahanim by Karka. But total is a total of 10. So Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov says all redemption has to be 10. El Rabbanan, but the Rabbanan that say movables have to be 3, Shloisha Minolu. How do they know 3? V'chi tema d'chsiv bu Shloisha. By movables it says 3. No, by Karka it says 4. It should be enough with 4. Karkois d'chsiv bu arba. By real estate it says Kayan 4 times, so it should be enough Tiskei Barba. That for real estate it's enough 4, but we learned for real estate you need 9 and a Kayan. You need 9 plus a Kayan. So you need 10. We take in the fact that it says also Kayan by Arachin and Kayin by movables, and we add them all together. And it's all together 10. Elamai de Mishlibu Asara. So then, Hekdashis de Mishlibu Shita. So then, movables. The Pidyon Bema Tameya, which is in the middle. So it says 6 Kahanim there. The Mishlibu Shita, it says 6 over there. Libai Shita, you should need 6, and shouldn't be enough 3. Says the Gemara, you're right, Kasha, that's a difficulty. We don't have an answer for that. Okay, so now, I did the Mishnah Yomis already. Also, I did a small share called Chanukah Thoughts, which is also available if you want to take a look for it. Also, Rabbi Say, tomorrow night, Be'ezus Hashem, which is Zois Chanukah, which we know is a Gemar Din for everybody, we will have, besides the Daf, we will have the Chumash share. If anybody wants to sponsor the Chumash share on Zois Chanukah, nice chus, that's available, 718-916-3100, rmmwsi@aol.com. And we want to wish everybody a delicious Chanukah. Thank you for joining us, and have a wonderful evening.
You mentioned before about the Ein Hara. The mother had something about the thought maybe Ein Hara. He went to the bourgeois, and he says, it's in Gleibnitzving then. He says, if you have two children that marry Torah, you don't have to worry about the Ein Hara.
Yes.
It should be good. He laughed about the bands, the red bands. He was laughing about it. He says, it's our business.
Yeah, so many.
He says, ask Grandpa. He told her to go ask Grandpa.
Many say that Torah is a great protection against Ein Hara, and that's what it is, because it says, Mitzvah Hashem bara me'iras einayim. But we can't get around the fact that the Mishnah says in Pirkei Avos, one of the things that's moitzian as a adam in ha'olam is ayin hara. We can't get around the fact of the Gemara in Bava Metzia that says Rebbe went to the base of Kvaras. There were 100 people buried there. 99, he said, were buried because of ayin hara. So many people. The only thing is that, and this is probably what the Bluzhev Rebbe meant, people don't understand what there is to be afraid of the ayin hara. They think that the red bendela is going to help. Right? The red bendela only helps as a reminder. It's like tying a string around your finger. It's a reminder not to flaunt something that you have that other people don't have. Because then Hashem says, I didn't give it to you that you should cause other people to have pain, and then he might take it away. That's the idea of an ayin hara. We want to thank everybody for joining us, and have a wonderful evening.